complete the mission.
So I got the big heist from Bram. He wants me to do this one last score and get out of here. I walked outside of the bar and I see that the area is surrounded by sixth kin looking for me, so I have to be sneaky. I looked around for routes and it's pretty well guarded, so I decided to sneak down this little alleyway. At this point, I wanted to see if I could save Scum, but I can't, so let's move on. I crept through these alleys and corridors thinking that there'd be massive security everywhere, but it looks like maybe it was just on the main road in this alley, and up here is pretty safe. I don't need to creep necessarily, but I'd rather be safe than sorry, so I creep. So I crept through these alleys, jumped up on this roof, and headed across. There wasn't a ton of resistance, but I like to creep anyway, just to be safe. I came down here and had to squeeze through this narrow area, which was another thing that reminded me of Jedi Survivor. Went down the corridor and of course looked for any collectibles that could be picked up on the way.
You want that next?
I finally made it out with no problem, didn't run into anybody, and met up with the crew that I'm doing the heist with. After flying over the city, they finally told me what we're trying to do. The guy from the beginning, the opening cutscene, Sliro, we're breaking into his house, into his vault, and apparently stealing his money.
Who's the mark? The boss named Sliro. Runs a syndicate called Zarek Besh. They're new, they're rich, and rumor has it they've got the under.
After what he did to the people in the beginning of this game, I'm not sure I'm so happy about that. But Kay didn't see that, so she's less afraid. As a member of the crew, it's my job to get in and disable the security so that they can get in and steal the money from the vault. They're also attacking from the other side so that there's some distraction going on in the area while I break in from the back.
How are we kicking this off?
When you're in position, we'll attack the main entrance. Your job is to sneak in, disable their security, and get to the vault.
At this point is where I learned that the skill tree is basically in the form of the experts that you're going to come across in the game. People who are your friends, people who help you out. You go through them in order to unlock the different skills and abilities that Kay can do throughout the game. While I was in the pause menu, I decided to look at the other inventory that I had and if there was any better gear or anything like that that I could equip this early in the game, but there wasn't, so I decided to move on and make my way toward the mansion and do some more Jedi Survivor type traversal of the environment. It is beautiful, I'll say that.
Could be my way in.
You're the thief.
Tried to make this jump, didn't quite make it. Try again. Second try was better, afraid of making the same mistake, but we're making our way across. We made it across this very familiar feeling rock wall. And finally got into the back area of Sliro's mansion. Compound? I think mansion is underselling it.
Starting the fireworks. Get inside.
Came here, assessed the situation, see how many guards there were, and what my best move would be. It seemed like there'd be a lot, and I didn't want to necessarily just be the straight up murderer that this game was allowing you to be, so I wanted to approach this in more of a stealth way. It was the first mission, and I wanted to see how it goes, especially because I went out of the nightclub hot. I wasn't able to sneak out of there. I wanted to see what sneak was. I moved very slowly. I ended up having to sit around a couple times to understand the patterns and the way that the enemies moved and to determine how far their sight lines were. So this was a bit of a slow and tedious process, but eventually I made my way through, taking out a few guards on the way, but non-lethally as far as I'm concerned. I got past all the guards, ran through here, found this lock I could hack with my data spike, and made my way inside. It seemed quieter in this area, and I needed to figure out how to remove this barrier so I could move on down the hall. Walked around a bit, tried to find any collectibles to pick up. Ooh, that's a cool ship. Came through this door and found the lever that turns off the force field.
That should do it.
Spent my time looking for more items and pickups coming down this corridor. Had to make it past this camera here, which was simple enough. Made it past the camera to see more guards guarding this area.
And of course it's got a barrier.
Still wanting to remain stealthy, I found this vent that I could go through, so I snuck behind the guard there and went into this vent. I headed up the stairs, used my data spike on this door, and tried to find out what I needed to do in this area. It was really foggy, and so I didn't actually see anybody initially, so I was kind of careless. I ended up walking through here and getting caught right away. I didn't want to go in hot, so after getting caught, I decided to reload the save and try and do this more stealthily and pay more attention this time.
There's a turbo lift. And of course it's got a barrier.
I don't know why this time I decided to use Nyx to distract that guard when I had no problem getting in last time, but hey, it's fun. So I went through the same grate, went up the same stairs, through the same lock, and this time I decided to be a little bit more patient and look around my environment to make sure that I wasn't going to get caught. I had to wait around here and watch the patterns of the guards and see how they walked around so that I knew when and where would be the best to take them out. It took a little bit of time. It was a little tedious, but after a while I figured it out and I took out the first guy. I moved through and I was going to just go on without messing with the second person, but I decided I wanted to explore the area to see if there was anything to pick up. So I did take a little bit of time to study their pattern as well and take them out. I turned off this camera in anticipation of not taking out that guard. So I was a little bit more free to walk around. I went back here and discovered that this was just another area I could have gone through. I could have taken this grate the opposite way, avoided both guards altogether, and would have been perfectly fine. You live and you learn, and that's what you get for exploring after the fact. Came this way because it looked like where I needed to go, and discovered that this was the top of the stairs where those two guards were before I went into that initial grate. There's a guard here who's going back and forth, so I needed to take him out. I decided to use the zap gun because it's a one shot and it's simple. I hate that cooldown. It's like a minute long, but that gun was a lifesaver in a lot of ways in this game. This camera was very much in my way, so I decided to use Nyx to distract it and see if I can't get behind it. Spoiler alert, there has been times where I tried that exact method right there and I wasn't able to get past the camera, but luckily I was able to this time. Came over to where this force field is and trying to find my way through, and I couldn't figure out where to go next. Stood up, ran around again. It turns out it was a good thing that I took out both of those guards because I had to go back. I missed a doorway that led to the switch that turned off the force field for this door that I need to go through now. So I headed all the way back there, head back, passing this camera 2-3 times in the process, luckily never getting caught, and I headed to what turned out to be an elevator. Not thinking, I stood right in the middle of the elevator. The guards before largely had their backs to the only entrance to the area, so I figured that would probably be the case here too, but I was wrong, that was not the case. But at least this actually makes sense. There was a guard waiting for me at the bottom of the elevator, and I had to take him out. Still wanting to play more of a stealth way, I decided to reload the save again. I wanted to try to stop doing that going forward. It's frustrating, somewhat cheating, and I need to just live with my choices. But we'll see. And it's not like the game is hard or that I'm having difficulty or trouble with it at all. It's just that I kind of want to play a certain playstyle. I want to be stealthy and stick around. And just shooting them and killing them wasn't the type of playstyle I wanted to play, and I wanted to be consistent. Fortunately for me, the checkpoint was right as the elevator doors opened, so I didn't have to repeat anything I had already done. I hid in the corner this time so I wasn't immediately alerted and waited until the guard got close enough for a melee takedown with the help of Nyx, instead of killing them with my gun. I continued down the corridor looking for items and secrets while avoiding any guards or cameras, which there weren't any anyway. I eventually made it through here where there was another guard, and I was introduced to a new puzzle mechanic in this game used to hack into computers. It's kind of like Wordle, but with symbols instead of letters. Though some might argue that letters are symbols, but I digress.
What a nerd.
You select your symbols that you think are in the puzzle, then you hit submit. After you submit, it'll show you whether those symbols were in the right spot or in the puzzle at all. You try again with the new information, trying to get the correct symbols in the correct order in order to solve the puzzle and complete the hack. Between this hacking puzzle and the data spike, I think these minigames are my favorite part of this game, especially so far. Hacking into this terminal allowed me to lower the shield that was up when I first got off the elevator, so now I could head down the hall to the vault.
Droid,
Password is Grandiocha.
I know you're in there. Grandiocha.
I used the password, which turned out to be the chosen one in Huttonese, in order to get past the gatekeeper and get into the vault. I made it into the vault and hoped to do some exploring, but I immediately went up to this terminal which triggered the cutscene, so the story moved on and I didn't get to explore. There probably wasn't anything I could get anyway. We come to find out that inside the vault there isn't money as we've been promised, but a prisoner. It appears to be the same person that Slero thought was a traitor from one of the rival syndicates in the opening scene.
A spy into my own house.
It turns out that he's a rebel fighter who has nothing to do with the syndicates, and I've been brought on to help with the promise of riches.
You'll get paid once we're safe. You have our word. Wait.
Unfortunately, Kay seems pretty short-sighted. She immediately pulls her gun when she realizes she isn't getting paid, which I get, but you are still in the vault of the head of a criminal organization. Seems like getting out would take priority, but that's just me. The rebel fighters don't have time to argue, so they simply stun Kay and leave her in the vault to be dealt with by Slero, presumably.
Eyes open, Kay.
And now this is the first time we learn of Kay's backstory. Looks like her mom taught her the ways of thieving and conniving from a very young age. Taught her how to pick a mark, the best person to steal from, and watches on as Kay practices her pickpocketing skills. She was able to grab something, can't tell what it is, jewelry maybe, from this passerby without them seeing, but unfortunately the cops did see.
You're a little young for a thief.
She runs away from the cops, and while she's doing so, tries to get a hold of her mom.
Where are you?
There's no answer though, so Kay has to keep running. Fortunately for her, she was able to escape the cops, and she finally made it back to where her mother was waiting for her. Looking closer, the spot where they meet back up is Bram's. He's right there in the background, so we get some backstory on their relationship too. It makes sense why he looks out for her.
Can't trust someone's always gonna be there.
This time, we see that her mom was teaching her independence. That lesson clearly stuck. How could you not be an outlaw with a mom like that? We come back to Slero discovering Kay in the vault, and he's obviously unhappy.
Okay, I can explain.
Nyx is a good distraction, and Kay is resourceful, so Nyx jumped on Slero, Kay was able to grab a gun, and we started murdering our way out of the vault. I made my way to the vents, but finally was able to hide him.
The death mark on her now. I promise a fortune for whoever can bring me her head. There'll be nowhere in the galaxy she can hide from me.
I made my way through the vents and ducts and came across this fan I couldn't simply walk past. I had to take out this power source up here in order to stop the fan and get by. I'm sure that's not the last time I'll have to do that. I got past the fan, slid down this slide, and continued down the corridor. I finally made it out of the vents to find myself in a hangar. The guards are on high alert, and it looks like that ship is my only way out.
Nix. We're gonna steal it and fly out of here.
I wanted to see what would happen when Nyx triggered one of these, if it was a stealth type thing or if it was loud. Turns out it was loud, so I ended up having to shoot my way through and not caring as much anymore, just hightailed it to the ship. Ship that looks really familiar, by the way. Not sure how Kay knows how to fly, but I was able to get on the ship, turn it on, and blast my way out. You would think an energy force field wouldn't be susceptible to energy weapons, but it went out with one shot and I was able to escape. Blasted my way out, got into open space, I was still being pursued. I hit hyperspace, crash landed on this random planet, and that was the opening sequence to Star Wars Outlaws. Now that I've escaped, seemingly from people who were pursuing me, and crash landed on this random planet, it looked like this is where the game was really going to open up. I did crash land though. The ship's not working, so I realized that I have to make do with whatever's on this planet. As I get off the ship, this random guy tries to hit me with a pipe. Before I'm able to figure out what he's doing, we get attacked by bandits. This fight unlocked a new shooting mechanic where I'm able to slow down time, mark enemies, and then take them out with one press of the button, with a nice little animation to go along with it. It's pretty cool. It makes you feel like a badass outlaw, you know, in the old west, quick on the trigger type. So I thought that was a pretty cool mechanic, and I'm glad that they included that in this game. We'll come to learn soon that this guy's a mechanic, and my ship is very rare, and he wants the opportunity to work on it. At this point though, all I know is that I need a working ship. He shows me that the ship is equipped with some sort of hover cycle called a speeder that I can use to get around the world. So I jump on that and head out to find the parts that he needs and the ways to make money to afford them.
Get to the core worlds and land a big score.
I thought again that this is where the game was really going to start to open up, so I wanted to explore this world a little bit before fast tracking to the main mission. Looking around at the scenery and looking at how beautiful it was, I decided to turn left here instead, but the game decided not to let me. So much for open world. I guess I do have to do this first mission. I headed toward the marker. I got attacked by bandits. I can't actually shoot at them, but I can use this special power shot to slow down time and take them out one at a time. It's all I've got, but it does the job and it takes them out quickly. There wasn't really a map, more just a compass with an icon where you could head toward it. So I got a little turned around a couple of times, but eventually I made my way to Miragana, the town, I guess the city, the urban area of this planet. I ran around and fortunately I was able to explore a little bit in this area. Came across another data pad which showed that there's a crash speeder somewhere that probably has parts I can get. Wanted to see if a blue force field meant something different than a red one. It doesn't. Head over here to these merchants to see what they're about and walk around to figure out how to get to where I'm trying to go. I went up here, figured it was this way, but wanted to avoid the stormtroopers, so I looked for another way. Not seeing one, I decided to just go by them, and it turns out it wasn't that bad. They needed some fake ID, it worked, nobody cares.
Some identification. You're Torin Valerio Nup.
That's me.
All right, move along.
I got into here, and I wanted to continue to explore. I went to the right first, but those goons aren't letting me pass there.
All right, I'm out of here.
Looks like stormtroopers aren't letting me pass this area. This person's getting thrown out of a bar, so I decided to just look around and see if there was anybody I could steal from. stole from these stormtroopers, but it turns out they don't have credits, they have grenades. And if I'm trying to play stealthy and not go hot all the time, I'm not sure how often those are going to come in handy. I was able to go down this corridor, but there's nothing down there. So I headed back up, robbed a couple more people, and then headed back down the stairs to see what was there. Looked around, looked like a nice little cafe mall area. And over in this corner, I discovered a game. Like Gwent in The Witcher, we've got Kessel Sabak in Star Wars Outlaws. The main premise is that you want a pair. The lower numbers, the better. And there's a couple special cards that can either help you or sometimes hurt you. And then there's power-ups where you can hurt other players or help yourself. It's not a super complicated game. There are quite a bit of rules to it. You just basically have to know that you need pairs. I came in, I won my first game, and decided that I was definitely gonna make sure I completed all the Sabak missions in the game, because this type of card game as a side mission is my jam. I collected every card in The Witcher as well.
Oh, don't feel bad. I'm really good at this.
Thanks for watching. I'm gonna be honest, I'm still working through the best way to create and present this type of content. So let me know in the comments what you thought of this video and if you have any tips or ideas that might help. I'm gonna go through a slightly different process to create the next one, so stay tuned for that. And of course, I gotta say it, don't forget to like and subscribe, especially so you don't miss that next video. Peace.